Good morning, everyone. My Main Street is back. We are so excited about the recent launch and intake for applications to the My Main Street program. So the focus of today's information session is going to be the Community Activator stream. We will be recording and sharing this session through our website after we've wrapped up today, so you can watch it today, you can rewatch it tomorrow, you can share it with your friends if you like. Anyone who wasn't able to attend who might be interested in the program, it will be available on the website. I really want to sincerely thank everyone for tuning in to today's session and recognize that we're coming from a diverse range of locations and treaty lands. CUI's team acknowledges the location of our head office on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples. Our work happens across Turtle Island, which has traditionally been and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. So we've been receiving a lot of questions and a ton of interest since we opened up on February 22nd for applications, which is fantastic. The intent of today's session is to really provide a general overview of the Community Activator stream, and this is going to include an outline of the steps involved in applying to the program. We're also going to review the scoring process and the timelines as well. We really encourage you to listen through the full presentation, following which there will be an opportunity for Q&A. Any of those burning questions that you've been sitting on or sending to us, you'll have an opportunity for live Q&A. But we do ask that any questions that are very specific and unique to your organization, your community, your project, we encourage you to direct those via email to our team at placemaking@mymainstreet.ca so that your portfolio manager can assist you get the context needed in order to answer that question. So here is the team. I'm so privileged to be surrounded by such a talented group of people operating and delivering this program. My name is Lindsay. I'm the managing director. I came from the local business accelerator program from My Main Street first round. I have Sam on my flank as the communications manager. Put together this beautiful presentation and all the fantastic marketing materials that you've seen since we launched the program. A group of incredibly skilled and experienced portfolio managers. On the business sustainability side, we've got Aaliyah, Christopher, Christine, and Sho. And the Community Activator stream, you're going to hear from her today. We've got Ramona. She's going to be a familiar name for many of you. At the Canadian Urban Institute, the larger team, we tackle a lot when it comes to main streets across Canada. CUI really understands Canada's main streets, that they are iconic symbols of community life and belonging. These are places that we go to shop, do business, eat, play, participate in civic life. We undertake nationally coordinated research and action to ensure the people, businesses, and organizations that call Canada's main streets home are vibrant, sustainable, with an emphasis on their value to the health of our economy, social life, vitality of our neighborhoods and cities. So My Main Street 2.0. This program is actually a $15 million investment from the Government of Canada through the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, FedDev Ontario. And it's really designed with the intent to support and spur local economic development. The program is delivered, as I said, by the Canadian Urban Institute, and it features two streams. So there's the business sustainability stream, which will provide non-repayable contributions of up to $20,000 to eligible Main Street businesses that apply, with a case on how that funding will strengthen their existing capacity and support their growth. And then, of course, there's the Community Activator stream. That's what we're really focusing on today. And this is going to provide support of up to $250,000 for local high-impact placemaking projects. Ramona is going to break down really specifically what that can look like, what that means. But essentially, it can include events and festivals, community enhancements, streetscape improvements, really designed to draw visitors and increase local vibrancy. So what is a main street? The term main street really is talking about a commercial community focal point of a neighborhood. So these are places that offer residents access to shops, culture, services, and more. We have evaluated approximately 5,300 main streets across Southern Ontario that have been identified for the My Main Street program. And this is on the basis of employment, business, and service density, among other data sets. Applicants can actually use our mapping tool, which is going to come up. There's a URL. Next slide. So they can actually use our Measuring Main Streets mapping tool to determine if they're located on an identified main street. So they can directly enter their address into that tool. This has been developed through a data framework created by the Canadian Urban Institute. If you find that your organization is not located on an identified main street, please contact us. We're happy to have a conversation about your unique situation, any nuance, or your community in which we should have some consideration around identifying your main street. We're happy to do that. Just reach out to us at placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Ramona.
Thanks, Lindsay. So today I'm going to be talking specifically about the Community Activator. And so this stream is focused on providing support to community projects in Southern Ontario that, as Lindsay said, are designed to draw visitors, increase local vibrancy, and I'm going to add something here, that are also going to have an impact on economic diversity and development. So funding in this stream is up to $250,000. And as Lindsay had said earlier, it is for high impact placemaking projects that seek to revitalize neighborhoods and reimagine public spaces. And so successful applicants, it's 100% funded of whatever your project costs are, up to the maximum of the $250,000. But participants or applicants may request 25% to be given to them up front. The way that the program works, it is based on reimbursable expenses. So the 25% we will be able to forward to you without any type of expense verification. But anything after that, the additional 75% will be reimbursed based on the submission of eligible expense receipts, anything to show that an item has been paid for. So again, it's 100% of the project cost that you have identified, 25% up front. So right now, the projects themselves must be taking place between December 1st, 2023 and December 31st, 2024. And applications are currently open. They opened on February the 22nd, but will close on midnight of March 31st, 2024. Participating in this information session live, this session and the slide deck will be available as well to go back and review. And as always, any questions you have about the program can be sent to placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. So what is placemaking? In a very, very quick nutshell, it is an approach that asks people to collectively reimagine and reshape their public spaces to maximize their shared value. But what I am going to stress to you, this particular program in the Community Activator program is about activation, actually implementing a program, okay, or a project, and not about ideation. So anything that you submit as a project must be something that will be implemented and completed between the timeline. But placemaking, what it does is it makes a meaningful difference in local communities. It draws people out and it draws them together. And it strengthens the feeling of connection and inclusion. It spurs economic activity if we have all these people here. But I think the biggest thing is it strengthens the connection between people and the places where they live and work. And it basically looks at the physical, social, and cultural identity of that area or of that space or place. So the program itself is been identified based on 3 separate stream categories. But we do understand that a project may go across all 3 categories, and this is totally fine. We are just trying to find out how you view the project. So the first stream that we're looking at is events and activations. And these can be community events of a short, limited, or repeated duration, and it's intended to draw visitors or create a new local offering. And these will be events that are based on a very specific geographic area that you view in your community as the hub of your community and economic activity. The second stream that we talk about are community enhancements. And these are what we reference as being above grade improvements to a specific geographic area that will enhance the physical and visual appeal, draw people in, and increase the feeling of safety, connection, and enjoyment for the people from your community and those from outside who may be coming to visit. Again, these are above grade improvements. Okay, and the third and final stream has to do with streetscape improvements. And these are projects that facilitate a focused, deliberate path for revitalizing or strengthening a downtown or a commercial district through intentional and creative placemaking. Streetscape improvements could include murals or ramps, anything that will allow you to be able to better the area that everyone lives, works, and comes to visit in. Now, we need to make sure, so if you are looking at some of the examples, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going back here a minute, but if you are looking for examples of the types of projects, please do go to our website, because if you go to the Community Activator tab, there will be examples of projects, and there will also be links to previous projects. And if you have any questions, always placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. So let's talk about eligibility. This is very, very key for all of you. I know you've sent in, but applicants need to be from communities located in Southern Ontario. All right. They need to be representatives of the following groups. Okay. So applicants may be a municipality, local or regional government, a BIA, business improvement area, an Indigenous governing body or development corporation, federally or provincially incorporated or unincorporated not-for-profits, and registered charity organizations. Now, what we are encouraging is people to come in as co-applicants or strategic partners. So if the lead organization fits one of these, there can be other people that are brought in as co-applicants or partners. Now, it is mandatory that anyone that submits a project application must confirm that they have or will be able to obtain all the necessary licenses and permits in relation to their project. And this can include local permits and licensing. It can also include public health related to their different jurisdictions. What we are looking for are projects that are focused on a very specific geographic area or neighborhood. And this could include a main street, downtown strips and plazas, okay? What it cannot be used for is to support programming across a complete municipal jurisdiction. So key to this in terms of identifying what makes a great project is an applicant who can identify how their work or this project will contribute to sustainable economic and social vibrancy. We're not looking for the one-hit wonders, okay? We are looking for something that for your community will have a long-lasting impact. And we are also therefore looking, as I said before, to applicants who are working collaboratively with other local community delivery partners to be able to make this vision become a reality. And finally, another key consideration are applicants who can identify how their project will support the inclusion, safety, and prosperity of equity deserving groups. Okay, and this can include, our list is it looks big, and in some cases, sometimes it seems really small, but that includes Francophone, women, the Indigenous, racialized group, Black communities, newcomers, youth, 39 and under, people living with disabilities, the unhoused, low income, trans or non-binary people, and or two-spirit, LGBTQIA+. So a project that can meet all of these, that's an eligible project. Now we flip to the ineligible side. And when you look at the list, it's not as exhaustive, but it is very, very important, okay? So applicants who have received funding through alternative placemaking programs supported by the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, FedDev Ontario, in the last calendar year will not be eligible. And I'm going to preface this. The big one is the Toronto Main Street Recovery and Rebuild Initiative. All right. If a program that you have received funding for allows for the stacking of funds, then it will be one that we will able to consider. All right. But you need to make sure that you clearly identify where additional funds for this specific project have been received or where you have put in an application and are waiting to hear. Now, we do also note that previous recipients of the Community Activator funding can apply. However, new applicants and totally new communities will be given priority. I think the key thing in terms of, I'm going to call it ineligibility, is the fact that if your project is one that is something that you do annually, okay, you need to make sure that you identify what is new and innovative about this project going forward. We will not fund programs that are annual type of events that you always have unless there is some new type of initiative attached to it. So let's look at some of the eligible expenses. So labor costs are included in eligible expenses. And this can include costs for consultants or contractors or project staff. Okay, what cannot be included in this labor cost is any funds used to cover current owner, management, or existing employee labor costs. All right. So even if you, as the executive director of the BIA or your staff, are going to be putting 25% of your time into this project, we cannot reimburse you for that. We would consider that to be an in-kind donation of time. But if you are hiring additional staff specific to this program, their funding will be included. All right. So other things now, when we talk about consultants as well, all right, I'm going to stress again, these projects must be implemented and activated within the period. So if there is a consultant fee, you're just looking at ideation, or you are looking at sort of developing a plan, a strat plan, and there's no implementation, then we will not cover those types of consulting fees. We will cover the costs of any type of communication, marketing, and promotion, and any direct program costs related to equipment, materials, the evaluation of the success of your program, all right, measuring and analytics, insurance, permits, and approvals, okay? Capital expenditures can be covered, and I use the word can because the type of capital expenditures that we are able to fund are related to above grade enhancements to streetscape design, landscaping, amenities such as murals, seating, temporary installations, and lighting. Anything that requires excavation, ripping down walls, massive, renovation will not be covered under this program. So anything above grade enhancement. Now, the one thing that I'm going to ask you is that you must be realistic in the eligible expenses that you are trying to forecast as part of this program. So where you are able, if you have copies of estimates, purchase orders, anything that would verify the cost, please include those as part of your application, because we don't want to leave money on the table. This is a reimbursable expense type program. And so if you've asked for $250,000 and you only provide receipts for $200,000, we have now left $50,000 on the table that could have been used by another community. So we need to make sure that your estimates are dead bang on, or as much as you can do that. So now we get to the ineligible expenses, and I sometimes feel like a recording when I do this one, but I'm going to kind of encapsulate these into three kind of really big categories, two big categories, and then I'll talk specifically. Large capital expenditures, as I had recently identified, land, building, vehicles, new construction and renovations of existing buildings, or associated depreciation and amortization are not included and they are ineligible. I'm going to talk about the obvious things that are not included and eligible: payments to board members, partisan, political, or election-related activities, or membership in any type of a professional body is also not covered. But what you really do need to focus on are the next one, okay? So as I'd said before, research projects where the findings are not or are not intended to be applied as an outcome of the project, okay? Feasibility studies, strat plans, anything else without intending to carry out active work activations, those are not eligible. The second one is really important: projects that benefit only private interests. So if your project is one that only allows you to fundraise for your organization, generate revenue for a single organization, even though it is open to the community, those are not eligible. Events and activities that do not abide by local and provincial public health and any other type of guidelines for your community in terms of permits, licensing. Any expense that is incurred outside of our eligibility window. And this is really important. If there's nothing else you remember, it's December 1, 2023 to December 31st, 2024. The project must be completed by that point in time. We will only reimburse for expenses in that window. And as I said before about the labor costs, we've already spoken about that, so I will not speak of it again. So how do you apply for this wonderful program? All right. There is a very specific process for these applications and very specific information that we are looking for. I will always, always, always say, please go to the applicant guide first to review all business eligibility, okay, or all organization and all expense eligibility is listed in this application guide. All right, so first you want to see, is the project itself eligible? Are the expenses that you are looking for eligible? There are a number of additional documents. So there is an application form. It is a fillable PDF form that's there for download that must be included. So when you go to the Apply Now button, you will be taken to our submission form. You will then be asked to complete the demographic data in the submission form, and then you will be asked for attachments. The attachments will include the application form and the project budget that is provided for you, as well as a downloadable template. It's in Excel. We are also going to be asking for a piece of documentation confirming your organizational status as an eligible organization. And this could be your articles of incorporation, master business license, charitable status documents. And the final thing that we're going to ask for upload are your most recent financial statements. Now, please bear in mind that we have a limit on the size of anything that can be attached. So if you can minimize the size as much as you can before you attach, that would greatly help us out as well, because we have a limit of 100 megabytes of information that we can include. So just bear that in mind as you are downloading and attaching these. In terms of the application writing, okay, what is it that you are trying to convey to us in the application form, and where we generally call them the long answer? The very first thing is that you need to identify or articulate the need of your community for this type of a project. Second thing is that in your writing, you need to identify the impact that this project will have on your main street. The third is very, very succinctly state the economic and social impact of this project on your community. Fourth thing is, how are you going to implement it? Because we need to identify that you have the means and tools to be able to implement the project as you have identified. So we are looking for a project plan. But to me, the most important part of all of this is what is your definition of success for this project going to be? And how do you plan to measure and analyze it? What tools are you going to be using to identify whether this was successful for your community or not? And what are the changes or things that the lessons learned from what your project, what you were able to do with your project? These all become very, very important in terms of what we're doing. They also become very important in us being able to write a success story on your community and your project. And so the more information we have that we can base this on, the better off it is and the better understanding we have on what it is that you are trying to accomplish. So let's look at strong applications. As I've said before, they have clear objectives and their deliverables are clear and measurable. The need for the project is evident, and you have identified what local barriers your community might face and that you are trying to work on. You need to make sure that your outcomes match the My Main Street Community Activator objectives, that this has positive economic and social impact on your community, that there are strong strategic partners and engaged community shareholders and stakeholders, and finally, that you have the capacity to complete the project within the timelines that we have identified and that you are trying to complete this project within. So I'm sure all of you want to know, how are we scoring these applications? So there are three very broad categories of assessment. First is vision, second is capacity, and third is community need. So when we talk about vision, is this placemaking project clearly defined within a specific geographic area? Are there well-conceived objectives, including those related to equity deserving populations? Do you have a clear scope and objective? And is it innovative or is it reimagined for your community? I want to call it something that's net new. What is different about what you are doing or trying to accomplish? The second we're going to talk about is capacity. And I think I've already beat this to death, but we'll go through this again. Is there a strong team in place with a well thought out plan for its implementation? Does the budget reflect what it is that you are trying to do? And do you have a clearly articulated plan for how you are going to define and measure success? And the final and most important assessment has to deal with community need. Okay. What is the need that you are trying to meet as identified by historical patterns in your community of retail spend, mobility, demographic representation? What is the need that you are trying to meet for your community members by the project that you've identified? So when we talk about this, and please understand, most of your projects are amazing projects, but this is a limited distribution program. And so we really have to look at how are we going to be distributing the funding across the whole of Southern Ontario in a way that meets the greatest need of the people that are applying. So we are going to stress and identify that a minimum of 25% of the funding for the community activator, approximately $3.25 million, will be committed towards rural communities with populations less than 100,000. And up to 50% of funding, or $6.5 million of the funding, will be given to participants from traditionally underrepresented and equity deserving groups. So again, if you have any questions about this, please always reach out, placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. So application timeline. You are on a time crunch. So applications must be submitted before March 31st, midnight of March 31st, 2024. I need to say this, although it's fairly obvious, but the submission of an application is not a guarantee of funding. All right. So we will be assessing applications on a rolling basis, but we will be informing successful applicants between April 1st and May 31st of this year of the outcome of their application. All right. Now, this is not a first in, first granted type of program. We will be looking at all of the submissions in the timeline and reviewing them and assessing them. We are also wanting to be working with you to create the best application that you can create for your community. So if there is missing information, incomplete information, or there may be some attachments that are missing, we will reach out and return those to you so you have the opportunity to update, redo, resubmit, okay? And we will allow you to resubmit based on information that we have been gathering. We are trying to make as many people successful, as many communities as successful as we possibly can. You've all listened to me drone on. Now is the time for any of you. I know there were some questions in the Q&A, and we will be answering those. Sam's going to sort of ask me some questions, and I'm going to do a asked and answered. So as many of them as I can answer in this time frame, I will do. If you have specific questions about your specific project, your specific community, please reach out to placemaking@mymainstreet.ca, and I will be able to answer those on an individualized basis. So today it's going to be more generic questions that apply to everyone in the room. Very specific questions we can deal with one-on-one.
Okay, thanks, Ramona. So I'm going to be reading out some questions and basically putting them together as much as I can to theme them. I think what Ramona just said about reaching out about your specific community, we know that there are questions about main streets that maybe are not coming up on the map, but they are clearly the main streets of your community. Again, that's an email to Ramona at placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. We recognize that, no data set can, identify what every main street is. So please do reach out if you are not showing up and you think you should be. So yes, please file in the questions now, and we will start answering these as we go. So Roman, I think you did answer this, but we've gotten it just a couple times. Does the project need to be fully complete by the end of December? And then another question is, does the project have to end on December 31st? Or if we created a project and fully implemented it before December 31st, but built it in a way that could be sustainable long-term, does that impact eligibility?
If it's a long-term, what we are looking at is the part of the project that you would like funding for that is going to be completed by December 31st, 2024. Okay, so if it is a project that goes for a longer duration, okay, you need to look at what are the components of the project that can be implemented and activated and completed before December 31st, 2024. And the reason is, I'm going to give you the reason. People like to know the why. It's because we have to have the ability to review, reference, pay you back, get copies of your receipts, also do the necessary reporting that's required for FedDev Ontario. And so we need to have it completed and done so that we have enough ramp left to be able to do all of those things and be able to issue the funds to you. So this is our reason for taking that hard and fast on December 31st. So whatever you are asking for must be implemented and activated and be able to be measured and analyzed by December 31st.
Yeah, so you do have to report on it by that deadline. But should you get the ability to extend it, you still have to be able to report on what has happened before December 31st.
Correct.
Beautiful. Okay. So there are questions about, where these things can take place. So I'm going to start with the first question. Can an existing festival that takes place on a main street apply for the events and activations?
Okay, so as I said before, if it's an existing festival, okay, there has to be something net new attached to it. All right. So if you've done it for the last 24 years and all of a sudden you're just kind of going, hey, we're looking at this as being another funding source for us, the project has to have something that is basically net new for your community. All right. If you've been doing it all these years and it's been supported and all of that, we are looking for net new. So, and again, it's not because this year we had Bobby Brown performing and now we're going to have Mary Sue performing. It's what has changed about the event that is going to make it that it has a significant activation that meets the needs of the program.
And in our last info session, Ramona, you gave a very good example about place. So when people were asking if, you know, an event goes across multiple locations or if they can be rural, you know, we know that it has to happen on a main street. But if you could describe a bit more about the place component, I think that'd be helpful.
So all of this is I'm going to call it geographically based or based on a specific place that you can visually say that it's going to happen at this location. All right. Your activation is about the purpose. What is the purpose for having it in that location? And this becomes very important. So when you are looking, and that's why for some of you who've already sent me emails about like, you know, oh, this isn't in this isn't in the my main street ideation, right? You need to look at how is that place where you are doing this? Why is it important to your community? And why is that place or location where it is that you are going to be doing this? This becomes very, very important. Where are you drawing people from? Who is going to benefit from the location that you have chosen to be able to do this activation? All right. So it has to be very strategically defined that you have to tell me that it's between this block, and this is what's going to happen. It can't be, you know, a whole bunch of small events all over the place across the city. We need to have something that is very tied to a specific location. Does that help, Sam?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And then could you please describe, so like, can an organization put in multiple applications? One question specifically asking, is one application permitted per municipality? Obviously not, like a BIA and a city are not always necessarily a part of the same organization. So Ramona, hoping you can.
Yeah, so there can be multiple applications for the same place. All right, so it could be a BIA putting in an application on their own, the municipality putting in an application on their own for that same location, different types of projects. Now, we can look at the streams that we talked about. They can cross all streams, okay? Streetscape, all of the ones that we had identified, okay? Now, understand though, if your community is putting in 3 or 4 separate applications for the same place or the same main street or the same location, they are all going to be individually scored. And so that will mean that someone does not get and some get. And so where possible, we are asking people to look at, is there a way that you can bring all of the ideas from all of your community organizations together under one umbrella, as opposed to a whole bunch of standalone applications from individual stakeholders. So we really do ask you to look at how can you work together as a community to create one combined vision as much as possible. Makes the application stronger. When you start separating it out and siloing it, there is the chance that someone is not going to score as high. And so we really want you to, where you can, bring them all together across all the streams, and that just makes a stronger application. And it shows that the placemaking has a community essence to it and common stakeholder relationships. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, and an organization can put in multiple applications, but recognizing that they will be scored against each other. So let's say you're a larger city and you have 2 main streets that you want to apply for as like a municipality. You could apply for both. But again, when we're considering all of the distribution, we won't take that into consideration.
Yeah, to what Sam's saying, when we start looking at distribution, you can put yourself out just on how many we can do based on the distribution that I had talked about, like, you know, rural versus urban, those that have the diversity, equity, inclusion, all of those types of things also play into this in terms of the scoring. So we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. So I've kind of seen this phrase in a few different ways, but basically some people are asking if a project has to be just outside or if it can be also indoors. So as an example, could you do public art installations in storefront windows as a component of placemaking?
Yes, you can. So it does not have to, like, you know, you see this picture now, everybody's sitting outside. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. And I really would encourage everybody to look at the examples that are found in the like not on the website under the community activator to get some ideas of different types of projects. But what cannot happen, though, is that one organization or a private for-profit company, it can't be something that they are benefiting from, so that they're selling tickets to something within an indoor location and it becomes revenue generating. That's not the intent of this program. Art installation that is open to everyone, that is definitely something that we can look at and will be included in the review.
Excellent. And then one point I wanted to comment on, because I can see it in the chat, is when you're looking at the map, what's the difference between the Main Street and the Main Street catchment area? So that's just really a data pull. So basically it will highlight where it's pulling the data from. So it's proprietary license data and Statistics Canada information. So if you think about like a 15-minute walking radius to your Main Street, that's what we've considered for your catchment area. So that's where it's pulling the information. Okay, next question, Ramona. I think this is helpful just because you can point out stacking, but someone asked, does the Rural Economic Development Grant disqualify applicants?
So surprisingly, I was actually on the RED funding, all of the info sessions on that. The RED funding is a stackable program. So if you have applied for that and you haven't heard yet, you would just identify to us that you have applied for funding to what dollar value, and then we would look at how you could stack that funding. Okay, this program is 100% reimbursable to the project costs that you have identified. So if your total project was 250,000 and RED was giving you 100,000, then you could look at the 150,000 being funded by this. All right. So we do where a program or where other funding allows stacking. And what stacking means is that you can use multiple sources of funding for something. Government, municipal, local government, municipal, provincial, and federal. This program will allow it. The only exception with this program are the My Main Street initiatives in the city of Toronto, okay, that were very, very specific, tied to My Main Street as a funding stream, all right? But stacking on the RED is definitely allowable.
Ramona, we're going to circle back to a question that you had previously sort of answered. One of our colleagues is pointing out just a component of this. So they're asking if an event that happens annually struggles and the funds end up being used to make it more sustainable for the future, can that goal be a foundation for eligibility?
Okay, so this is one I would really need to speak with you one-on-one about it, all right? And I would ask you to review the application form and the questions that we are asking, all right? The program, again, you have to look at what is that program that you are doing and why is it not successful? It sort of is an infusion of cash the only thing that you're missing and everybody loves the program, or is what it is, or the project that you are doing, is it something that is now no longer relevant in your community? So when you're asking me that question, there's kind of two scenarios in here. It's like, maybe the project is no longer relevant for the community, or maybe it just needs to be revitalized. So I think this is a one-on-one discussion that I just need to understand the components of it. and understand the reasons, what's the underlying behind that.
Yeah, like my brain immediately thinks like maybe you're going to hire a sponsorship specialist and they're going to do more activations at the event, and that's what's going to revitalize it and bring in money or something like that. I think that those are the conversations you might have with Ramona directly.
Yeah, this is very much like, looking at, and sometimes it's hard to let go of events that we've done, but if they're not relevant for your community now, maybe this is the time to revitalize and reinvent, and that becomes what we can fund.
Beautiful. Okay. So there's some questions about co-applicants. Maybe you can describe that part of the application form first, and
Yeah.
then I could ask more specific questions.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the concept of co-applicant, it is someone that has the same or a large vested interest in this whole project. So this could be someone who is helping you with the implementation. They're providing staff, they are providing resources, financial or in kind, in order for you to be able to implement the project. A strategic partner is someone that can help you advertise, promote, get it out into the community. They really don't have a vested interest in the actual implementation, in the financial part of it, in the commitment. They're just more there as a community support to let more people know about it. So I always look at our co-applicants have skin in the game. Our strategic partners are there to support in any way that they can, which generally ends up being more of a marketing and leveraging their networks, if that helps.
Mm-hmm. So like, could a BIA and a municipality apply together? I think you did touch on this, but
Yes, no, they definitely can. They definitely can. And again, we look at who is the person that's going to be responsible for the implementation and how do they bring their skills, their capacity, their resources in order to make that happen, as opposed to just being hey, we're going to post it on our website and we'll shout it out on our digital marketing and then that'll be it. The people that are co-applicants are people, as I say, have skin in the game. They're actually doing something towards this activation, more so than just talking about it.
mm-hmm. Okay. So everyone, I will be passing over some questions that have been answered in one way or another, or if they're too specific, we might just not be able to get to them as all these questions roll in. We do have a couple more minutes for questions, so I'm still looking through them all and trying to summarize them into groups as much as possible. But keep those questions coming if you need them. Again, if they're too specific, you can email them to placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. Okay, so one question that's it's interesting because obviously a lot of communities host events that are volunteer based. So those are unpaid jobs, obviously. Can part of the funding provide, let's say, honorariums or something along those lines?
Again, we need to look at the specific situation. All right. So generally it could be used to do something with the volunteers. Okay, the minute you give a volunteer some type of a payment, so we just have to look at what is the intention. Like if you want to do an event for the volunteers or, provide them with t-shirts and meals and all of that while they're working, that is generally considered under project costs. Any type of honorariums, we just need to look at what the intent of that is and what the dollar value is. And the reason I'm sounding so sketchy on this right now is because it looks at who your volunteers are, because technically you can't pay board members. And so depending on who you are getting the volunteers from, it's just one of those, kind of a CRA type question, but we just want to make sure that we've got that covered and have a complete understanding of what that means for you and your organization.
Yeah, and once you're paying people, that becomes staff wages.
Yeah, it's and again, yeah, let's look at those on a one-on-one basis, and then I can provide a better answer than I'm giving right now, just based on scenarios.
Okay. There are a lot of questions about deadlines. So we did go through this. So all the expenses and project reporting must be completed by December 31st, 2024. But I do have a couple deadline questions about the application. So let's say it's missing a document. Does the whole application need to be resubmitted completely, or just the missing document? And what happens if it ends up being after the March 31st deadline?
My goodness, I may come across as a really tough person, but I would never ever make someone resubmit something that they've already submitted. We are only looking for what needs to be changed or added. We are not looking for a total resubmission and you trying to remember what it is that you've done. The great thing about the application, so I will let you guys know this, the way that we've set up the application process in the submission form, it will allow you to save the application as you are working on it, and then you can go back in and continue to work on it. It will provide you with the link that you can go back in and edit it. It will allow you to save it, and when you've completed and when you've submitted your final application with all the attachments, it will also allow you to take a PDF copy of your completed application so that you have it for your records, everything that you've answered, and then the attachments that you have attached. So as you're working on this, I really do encourage you, get in there earlier, so that you know what the questions are, you know what the information is that you need to gather, because you can save and continue to complete on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Again, some of these questions are getting pretty specific, so I apologize if I'm skipping over them, but you will have to probably directly message Ramona. Okay, should strategic partners write letters of support, or should they just be listed as a co-applicant? What is
so in the actual application form, I have listed them as two separate. So I'm just looking for the names of the co-applicants, and then I leave some space. I leave more space for the strategic partners. I think there's 3 for co-applicant spaces and 5 for strategic partners. We are just looking for their names. All right. This is not a make work project, and I'm really not trying to make this a make work project for anybody that they have to get letters of support, because we know a letter of support is always going to say something wonderful. So just listing the organizations is enough for us.
Okay. And then when you're looking for like quotes in the application, like if you're looking for quotes, do you need more than one? Do you have to go to like 3 different people?
No, this is based on how you and your organization would do this. What we are really looking for is just verification of reasonableness for what you have identified as the cost or the expense. So if you're telling me that it's going to cost you $100,000 to put up a banner, I'm going to hit you with reasonableness that you need to show me something that makes that a reasonable ask. So this is just where you can get this so that we can identify that there is reasonableness attached to this. In some cases, this will also be reasonableness attached to, can you have it delivered and ready in the time that you need it? Because you got to remember, we're implementing up until December 31st. There's not a lot of lead time right now. And so if something is going to take you 6 or 7 months to get, we're already sitting closer to Christmas than we are sitting closer to the summer. So where possible, just to provide and verify reasonableness of the actual expense is what we're looking for.
Could you just touch on if there's any matching required or like organization contribution?
No, as I said, this program is specific to 100% of the costs of the project that you are identifying. Okay, so this is 100% up to what you are asking, to a maximum of $250,000. So there is no matching contribution. We are not asking you to seek other funds or get commitments from anyone else. It's wonderful if you can. It shows that, you know, you have partners and co-applicants and other things that are going to bring this together for the community, but it is not a requirement, and it is not something that we judge on. So it is not a scoring criteria as well.
Okay. And then you know, if it costs like 400,000, you can apply for the full 250, but 250 is the max.
Correct. We're maxed out at 250,000. And so then you would have to show where the rest of the funds are coming. If you have identified that this project is a 400 or 500,000, you need to identify where the rest of the funding is coming from.
And then one more, there's a question about, you know, if your organization's not on a main street, but the event you're doing is. So to clarify, yes, Ramona discussed about how it's about place, and the place being on or along the main street. So even if your organization's like headquarters is not there, the event is okay.
Yeah.
And then, sorry.
Yeah, no, so please be very clear about that in the application, that you identify that, because like Sam had said, your address of, you know, the municipality may be, you know, 123 Main Street, but your event is going to take place on, you know, 1292 Main Street. Okay, so just be very clear about that in the application. If there is anything where we're having to look at eligibility of a main street, that's also very, very important to us.
Okay, and then this is the final question that we can squeeze in. I think it's actually really interesting to point out. Is hiring an international attraction an eligible cost, or do all costs need to be Canadian?
Hiring what internationally?
Like an international attraction, like an installation. So if you bring that in, or do the costs have to be all Canadian?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't, I'm going to give an answer, but I may have to post an answer later on. I'm going to have to take a look at this one. There are no conditions about what it is that you are bringing in. It would be the same if you had brought in a piece of equipment that you need for your restaurant. And you had to order it from Sweden and bring it in. So it's not where you have received it. This is not a tied to Canadian manufacturers or Canadian. It is how you are going to be using it. But again, that having been said, if you are ordering something internationally, you have to be able to ensure that you're going to have it in time, that it can be delivered and installed in the timeline that you can use it when, like, you know, before the December 31st. So that would be the key consideration on that, is delivery timing, and where it is that it's coming from.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So any other questions? I'm seeing some questions about the business sustainability stream. So just if we can pop in the chat, the business email for those ones. But this session has just been about the community activator. So any remaining specific questions, we've answered most of them, but you can email to placemaking@mymainstreet.ca. And as we finish off this session, I'm just going to launch a poll, requesting that you please fill out those 3 questions for us. And thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. I look forward to hearing from all of you. So please reach out.